Alright, so the first thing that I want to tackle is prepping the cabbage. This is a Napa cabbage. You could do green cabbage, you could do red cabbage, kind of whatever you want to do, right?
The next ingredient is 4 serrano peppers that I'm going to rinse under cold running water, as well as 1 carrot that I'm going to also rinse under cold running water. For the salt, I'm using kosher salt that contains no additives.
The equipment that you're going to need is, this is a 3-pint mason jar, wide mouth on it, which is pretty useful. And you also need a digital scale that is capable of weighing out in grams. I mean, I like accuracy, I like consistency, I like food safety, so I weigh my stuff out, and I highly recommend you get a scale. This literally cost me 30 bucks. Not everybody has a scale, but if you're really getting into fermenting and you want to continue doing it, buy a scale is a good investment. I mean, it literally cost me $30 to get this, all right? I got this one at Target, but Walmart, Amazon, whatever, okay? So make sure that it's digital, make sure it reads in grams. Last thing is you need a big mixing bowl. This one's a 7.5 quart, so definitely big enough because you want to have room in there to kind of crush up the ingredients. First thing I like to do to the cabbage is just peel that outside leaf layer off. For the ferment itself, which I'm going to show you what we're going to do with it in a second, I do like to keep a portion of the leaf just like that. Cut the cabbage in half. And then just thinly slice it. Cabbage, of course, has a core in it, so when I do get close to it, I just cut around it. Literally the only waste that we get is that core.
I found that giving the cabbage a rough chop really gives the end result, which is a sauerkraut, a really nice texture. Some parts that are crunchy and some parts that are soft. Since we have 2 more ingredients that we need to prep, I'm gonna get this cabbage that has been chopped into a large mixing bowl.
So serrano peppers are next.
So I cut the stem end off the serrano pepper, cut that pepper in half, and I'm going to just give it a nice fine slice to the pepper. The slices are also going to vary about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch thick.
And then I actually do look at the seeds and make sure they're nice and white. The inside of the pepper, nothing's rotten, nothing like that. I'm keeping the placenta and the seeds in this pepper because I want it to be spicy as possible. If any of the seeds look discolored, get rid of them, of course. Last thing, I like using the cheese grater and a carrot, and then just kind of get after it. Again, you just want shreds of the carrots. Turn the scale on, make sure it's set to the grams, and then put the container that we're gonna put the cabbage and the carrot and the pepper in. Zero that scale out.
Carefully place all those ingredients into that mixing bowl that is sitting on top of the scale that has been zeroed out, and we're going to record this weight. So I'm going to go for a 2.5% salt on this, which means we take that 1,301, multiply that by 2.5%, and we're going to get 32.525 grams, which I'm going to round that up to 33 grams.
So I put ramekin on the scale and zero it out, and now we're just going to add the amount of salt that we need. I like using kosher salt when I'm doing this because it's more coarse and you get more abrasion when you go to massage the cabbage, which is kind of essentially make that brine. You're bruising that cabbage and you're pulling that water content that cabbage has in it out with the salt through, you know, squishing it via abrasion from the salt. So you take the bowl that has the peppers, carrots, and cabbage in and literally just dump that salt in there. I mean, I dump all the salt in there at once. Essentially at this point, it's like kneading dough or like giving it a massage, basically. We're bruising the cabbage and the salt's helping pull out that moisture that the cabbage has. So this takes a little bit, like probably like 3 to 5 minutes of doing this process. I mean, already I could feel the water content kind of coming out of it, and I've only been doing it for about 30 seconds or so. Squeezing the liquid out of the cabbage, so you're creating your own brine by doing this, which is what we need for this to ferment properly. It's actually releasing quite a bit amount of liquid, so I'm pretty happy with that. Once you start seeing that the cabbage is starting to bruise, starting to extract a lot of water content, that's how you know you're on the right path. I massaged the cabbage pretty much just until I could see the water level starting to cover the top of it, especially if I kind of lightly press it down with my hand. So this is where your wide mouth jar comes into play. If you have a big funnel with a big opening, it makes your life so much easier. I don't have one of those, so we're just gonna go for it. All that liquid, let's say that's probably about a cup's worth actually.
Carefully scrape the cabbage into that mason jar. This is where the wide mouth mason jar really comes in handy. But like I said before, if you have a funnel with a wide opening on it, that would make your life so much easier here.
So next up, I have a rolling pin that I'm going to use to lightly press this down. If you have a muddler, use a muddler. Some sort of a blunt object that you could do this with is really all you need to do. You don't need to get like super He-Man strength on it, but you do need to make sure that you're compressing this down just enough so that that water level, that brine level, covers the ingredients, right? This of course has nice, bright colors to it, but as it ferments, the colors are gonna dull out a little bit more. It'll definitely look a lot different than this.
After day 3 or 4, you really should start seeing some fermentation activity by seeing some small bubbles form in between the cabbage and then on top of the surface level in between the cabbage and the weight.
So we have this leaf. Basically, it's just kind of make a little cap for it. So the whole point of this is to weigh down the ingredients because you want all those ingredients underneath that water level that creates an anaerobic environment. If any of this were to be able to touch air, more than likely mold is going to grow, and good practice is just to chuck it and start from scratch, all right? Definitely want to make sure that everything stays underneath that brine level. So if you have a fermentation weight, that would actually be ideal. I don't actually have a weight that would fit comfortably in that jar, keeping the ingredients submerged. So the Ziploc bag filled with water is more than adequate. Normally I don't like using plastic in ferments, but it's not really that big of a deal. I'm really happy with the amount of brine that's in there, so that's a very, very good sign. I try not to have any stragglers stuck to the side of the jar either, because those will more than likely mold. That might not be a huge issue. It's just when mold starts to grow on the surface level of the ingredients is when it really becomes a problem. So this will sit like this. You could definitely try this after day 3. I like to taste it after day 7, and then I'll taste it at the end of week number 2.
If you want to, you can secure a coffee filter over the opening of the jar. Secure it with a rubber band of some sort. Ferments need to be kept away from direct sunlight and in a temperature range that is 65 to 78 degrees for best results.
A very, very simple way to get a lot of good ingredients that are really good for your health, and it tastes absolutely fantastic. So whatever recipe you want to use it on is kind of up to you. This is good just as is. You could put it on burgers, you could put it on hot dogs, you could put it on patty melts, whatever it is that you want to use it for.
When the fermentation process is to your liking, throw a label on it and screw a lid under the jar and put it in the refrigerator. Fermented sauerkraut keeps in the refrigerator for a good 2 to 3 months if you don't eat it all by then, of course.